Hello and welcome to this week's YouTube video. Today I'm going to talk about mastering colour, and I'm going to use this cat painting as a demo to help me illustrate what I am saying. So let's get straight into the painting, and I will talk about the topic of colour as I show you the time-lapse video of the painting. There are lots of videos on my channel that go into my process in more detail, so check them out if you would like to know a bit more about my painting process. I wanted to do a video where I talk specifically about colour because in my humble opinion it is the most difficult one to master. Well, I find it the most difficult. For a painting to be successful, it needs to have all of the 5 essentials present. These are drawing, value, edges, temperature and colour. So when I talk about colour, I am actually lumping those last 2 together. That is temperature and colour. For the other 3, there are numerous hacks that you can do to get around them. I don't want to say that you can cheat because I don't think this is the right word, but you can use aids to help you get them right more easily. So for example, for the drawing you can trace. For correct value, you can use a camera to photograph your painting as you go along, then turn these images into black and white and then compare them to your black and white reference photo to see how far out you are. For edges, you can either figure these out before you start painting in programs like Procreate or Photoshop, or during the painting by photographing your work and then trying things out in Photoshop or Procreate as you go along. Using these hacks will make it less likely that you mess up your drawing, value or edges. But colour is different because you are directly responding to what you are seeing and then trying to reproduce that with mixing up paints. And your eye can be tricked by what you see because the eye struggles to see colour and value together. Often colours can be the same value but just different temperatures, and it is the temperature shift that tricks your eye into thinking one is lighter than the other. By always having reference to a black and white photo, this will help you avoid falling into the value trap, but it won't help you mix up the right colours. Unfortunately, I think how the light affects colour has to be understood to be correctly described. In this video, I'm going to try and break it down as simply as I can for you, and hopefully this will help you if you struggle to accurately describe the colour in your paintings. Remember that painting is a combination of what you see and what you know. The tips that I will give will be general tips that can be applied to any painting. What you see depends entirely on what you are painting and will change from painting to painting. It is worth remembering that reference photos will never be as accurate as painting from life. Photographs cannot accurately represent shadows. They tend to miss out detail, nor can they accurately represent light areas. If you are working from a reference photo, you need to be aware of this and make allowances for it in your own painting. The first thing to ask yourself is, am I dealing with warm light or cool light? Put simply, if it is a sunny day, my light will be warm, and if it is an overcast day, my light will be cool. The rule is warm light equals cool shadows, and cool light equals warm shadows. If you are using a reference photo, this rule will help you. However, light can be affected by where the object is. So in this instance, because the cat is in a room, there is a certain amount of ambient light. Ambient light affects shadows by making them warmer. So even though this area should be cooler, it won't follow that rule exactly because of the ambient light affecting how it is viewed. From my knowledge of painting, I have a basic understanding of how the colour of this cat is behaving in this room. It is warm light, so my shadows should be cool. but they will be affected by the ambient light, so I will have to increase the chroma a little. The next thing I need to look at is my light source. Where is it coming from? I can see from the shadow that the light source is coming diagonally from behind. This area is furthest away from the light source, so it is going to be my coolest area. As the light is coming from this direction, it begins to bend around the cat, so this area then becomes warmer. Because of the shape of the cat, I also have light bending around the top area here. I also know that my cat is backlit, so the shadow area will be very dark in value and I will have a halo of light around my cat. Objects that are backlit always behave like this. White light is never pure white light in colour. There is always an element of warmth in it. Understanding how the light is behaving is essential to understanding the temperature of what I am looking at. Whilst we have ambient light in this painting, we have little reflected light, so I do not need to worry about this too much. What else do I need to consider about this cat before I start mixing up my colours? That ear is a translucent object. When light hits a translucent object, it glows in beautiful warm colours as the light passes through it. Even though the ear is facing away from the light source, because it is translucent, it is massively increasing the chroma in that area. Plus, I am getting a certain amount of reflected light into the ear itself. It doesn't begin to shift in temperature again until the light moves out of the translucent area and also out of the reflected light in that shadow. I have looked at my reference photo and I have considered it in terms of all the things I know. I now need to view my reference photo in terms of what I see. As I start mixing, I begin to ask myself, what colour do I see? Again, this can be hard because your eye can trick you into seeing something that is not there, especially if you are working straight from a tablet or phone. Generally, always try to print out a reference photo because backlit screens will always skew your colours. The easiest way, I think, to see a colour is to use a neutral grey card for mid values and a white card for light values. Always look at the colour you are trying to mix in really simple terms of red, yellow or blue. This cat painting has a lot of alizarin crimson in it. All the colours that I mix are carrying some alizarin crimson, but when I look at that background, straight away I can identify it as brown. By holding my grey card up to it, I can see it is a red-brown. And how I mix up that red-brown is a combination of what I know and what I see. For example, I start off with a green, that is cadmium yellow and ultramarine blue. I know that I can make brown a number of ways, either green plus red or orange plus blue. Here I am going for green plus red. I then begin to add my alizarin crimson because experience of colour mixing has told me that this is the red I should use. Adding this begins to give me a brown, but it is too dark, so I need to lighten it. I know adding white will give me more of a light neutral grey, so I know I need to lighten but add chroma. I opt for cadmium red and cadmium yellow as they are my most chromatic colours on my palette. My colour is still too dark, so I add some white, which knocks out my chroma. I can see I need more red chroma to this brown, so I add alizarin crimson and yellow ochre light. This then gives me the colour I want. This brown will then provide me with a really good base for this painting, which I will mix pretty much into everything except the really high and low chroma areas. I can easily adjust this brown for my cooler areas by adding a purple blue, and I can easily warm it up by adding an orange or yellow. I need to bear in mind when I am mixing these colours up that I take into account all the factors that I know to be correct in terms of how my light is behaving, and I will need to adjust my colours accordingly. By understanding what I am looking at and how the light is affecting my colours in the reference photo, I will have a better chance of getting my painting correct and producing something that works. You don't have to be totally correct with your colours. As long as the value and temperature are correct, you can get away with quite a bit. Finally, I just wanted to talk about the really white areas of this painting. As I said before, my cat is backlit, so I have a bright halo of white around it. As the light begins to bend away, you will need a transition colour to integrate the object into its background. It is important to understand what is happening here. The light is hitting the object and then beginning to bend away. To recreate that accurately, I will need to warm up my white light and cool down my transition into the warm brown background. So for example here, I have a warm yellow-white, a cool transition of green, and then my warm brown. Your reference photo will not give you this information, but painting from life and observing from life will. I know that putting in this transition colour will always work, and so even if I can't see it, I will do it. The last thing I want to talk about is your actual palette. Should you have more colours on your palette and mix less, or should you mix more from less colours? I would suggest you do what feels right, as both can produce equally lovely results. The important thing is to know your palette, and this only becomes apparent after practicing with it lots. So the only suggestion I would make is to be consistent with the colours that you use, as it will help to get a really good understanding of what the palette can do. I hope you have found today's video useful. Please like and subscribe if you can, and check out my website sarahhallidayart.com, where you will find examples of my work and also details of online classes that I run. Thank you for watching, and see you for the next one.